Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Like, Share, Follow. And this week I have Luke Houston, who's a marketing coordinator at Tourism Noosa. Hi Luke, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Yeah, good. And so normally my first question I usually say to people, oh, it's been a while since I've seen you at USC, but it actually hasn't been. So
Not
I
really, no.
just want to congratulate you that you have just finished your classes to finish your degree, which is a celebration in itself. But you've been snapped up by Tourism Noosa, straight after you haven't even like officially graduated yet. You've just finished your courses, so that's amazing stuff. Tell me how that all came about.
Yeah, sure. So, during uni in my third year, I started to look for jobs that I could do for free. I understand that the market's quite busy and there's a lot of people that want my job. So, to put myself out there, I just said, look, I really want to learn from you guys, and I would just love to be able to work alongside you to pick up your knowledge and then maybe help you out at the same time so that there's a mutual benefit. So I worked with Tourism Noosa at the start of the year in February, and I was doing an internship, and I was lucky enough to actually get paid, but I did say that I would do it for free. And I worked with them for about, off the top of my head, maybe three to 6 weeks. I just can't remember, but it was about that time. And then COVID hit. So unfortunately, they let me go because I was working on an event that wasn't going to happen anymore. So then I continued on studying at USC, and I was looking for jobs. I was doing random work for friends and family, and just like I do jujitsu, so I picked up a few clients there, just helping them out and practicing my social media. And then just before I was about to graduate, about 2 weeks before, I get an email from Visit Noosa asking me if I want a job. And initially they said, I think to do it casual. And then Phoebe, she actually was on here earlier. She spoke to marketing, and the head of marketing offered me a full-time job. So it worked out really well. And I didn't even have to apply because I'd already shown them that I had the work ethic to do the job. And yeah, it just worked out really well.
It's amazing. So really, it was that, as you said, your work ethic. Also, you showed that you have a lot of initiative, sort of even just going and approaching people for an internship and doing that internship, and you built your network. So the thing was, like, they knew who to reach out to when they needed someone because you'd already built that relationship. So well done.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And so,
yeah, you go.
oh, I was going to say, what do you think helped you stand out? Like from all the things we've already said, but what do you think helped you stand out from, say, other graduates who would have been, because they would get approached by a lot of people too. I mean, it's tour like Visit Noosa, it's tourism in Noosa. It's doing Noosa, like the social media content for for Noosa or the members and things like that. It's one of the best places in the world to be a social media manager or a marketer. So what do you think made you stand out?
I think what a lot of people have in their mind as a student is that they're looking for someone to give them an opportunity. And I don't think it's necessarily the case. There's definitely a lot of people that want to give you an opportunity, don't get me wrong, but it's about creating opportunity for them. So in the business world, everyone's busy. They're not really too phased at how well you're going at uni. Most of the time, they just have a problem and they need someone to fix it. So if you can come in and you can present yourself in a way that shows that you have the solution to their problem, then they're more likely to hire you. It's about creating value for the other person and not necessarily trying to find value for yourself.
Excellent. That's such great advice. And so, talking about advice, what has been some of the best advice you've been given? I know you're just starting your career post uni, but what has been some of the best career advice that you've been given?
So there's technically three pieces of advice that I've always kept in mind. So when I first started out in my social media journey, I was talking to a guy who originally inspired me to get into it. And I basically just interviewed him and I said, like, what do I need to do? And one thing that he really said is your reputation is everything. So every decision that you make, every piece of work that you put out, it's got your name attached to it, and people will remember, and relationships are important. So if you don't put your all into everything that you've got and you put your work out and it's not that great, then that can tarnish your reputation. Or if you send an email that's not so professional and you let your emotions get the better of you, then that sticks with you. Because people talk, especially in Noosa, people talk a lot and everybody knows each other. So you have to make sure that that's intact. And then the other piece of advice, which isn't really a piece of advice, it's more of it's something that I learned from watching. I usually, with taking advice from people, I'm very, very careful because I don't think you should take advice from everyone. But I think you should watch people's actions and see what they're up to and if you can maybe improve your craft. So there was a guy who I worked with, his name's Raf, and he works at Backslap at the uni. So yes. Yeah, he's a really nice guy. And I had the opportunity to work with him for a startup, and we did a world record attempt for most people applying sunscreen at the same time, just to raise awareness of melanoma. And as a group, we had to come up with ideas and we had to contact the right people to actually make this thing happen. And between the group, we were like, I don't know what to do. How do we do this? We've never done this before. And every time we would speak to Raf, because he would have a conversation with us once a week, he would be like, so figure it out. Just make it happen. And his ability to not make excuses for his environment and to not blame anybody else for wanting to achieve something, or even if it seems like slightly out of reach, like reaching the news network or something like that, he just made it happen. And he tried before he convinced himself that he couldn't do it. And I think if you have the right mindset to just go ahead and try anyway, regardless of the outcome, regardless of the facts or what other people have told you, then a lot of the times the barriers that you think were there aren't actually as big of barriers as you thought. So you can do a lot more than you think.
Absolutely. It's funny, I actually made a TikTok about this the other day. I still love TikTok, but this is just something that's helped me, like, because I get scared about things and different, trying different things and fearing that I'm going to fail and things like that. But what I've learned over time, rather than letting that fear paralyze me, I really sort of work that energy into working out how I can do it. So I research, I talk to people, I'd work out ways, find out how I can do it. Then I feel more confident that I have some more knowledge about it and have a go. And you're absolutely right. The barriers, as soon as you do it, you sort of do a bit of digging, you'll find that the barriers aren't as big or as strong as you actually think they are.
And the other thing is, I can't remember where I saw this quote, but it was a quote and it said, everyone feels fear and fear doesn't necessarily go away. But every time that you do something regardless of your fear, you actually get braver. So you don't get less fearful, you just get braver.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think that like they're not brave enough, but it's something that you can practice.
Oh, totally. Absolutely. No, I'm with you with that. I heard a quote too, something around, it was like true courage is about feeling the fear and doing it anyway. So not about not having any fear, but you're right. It's about getting braver, and feeling it. So you've just finished your degree and you just started working. So you haven't had a huge amount of time to answer this question, but I'm sure you still have some answers. What has been one of the things that you wish you'd learned at university that you've needed now?
So one of the things that I wrote, which I'm sure is a course at university, but something that it's either a course that I wish I did or something that I wasn't aware of, and that's negotiation and persuasion. I think at uni we learn a lot about how to do a certain task. Like I learned with social media that you have to like review the business and then implement what you're doing and then report on that. But I personally, as a introvert myself, lack good communication skills at times. I'm very technical and I can get in and do the work, but when it comes to talking with other business people, it's maybe something that I could do a little bit better at. So learning how to negotiate and persuade people towards what I think would be best for the business would definitely be an incredibly valuable skill to have.
Yeah,
but I'm getting better.
Yeah, no, and that it is, and that's a practice as well, I think too. Like I'm an introvert, believe it or not. But it's yeah, no, I used to be so quiet, and picking up the phone and having to speak to someone I didn't know was just the most horrifying thing when I first got out working. And yeah, and again, it's that feeling, that fear. But yeah, I think you're right. I think we do need to include more around that. So even in the social media courses where you're doing a lot of that client liaison, even just having more guidance around how to do that and speak to clients. I think we provide some guidance, but we sort of do throw you in and we give you some like scripts and things, but I think we could do a bit more. Absolutely. What has been something you've learned at university that you've actually thought, yes, it's really helped you in what you're doing now?
So I would say how to research would be definitely one of them. Understanding, like being able to distinguish from jargon that's been spread through word of mouth and actually doing research on what is happening is an important skill to have, because I think we can definitely get caught up in our environment sometimes. And so that can sway our view of the world. And if you know how to research and be logical about what you're doing, then it's a really good skill to be able to implement, and it can definitely give you an advantage in the business world.
Absolutely, yeah, I think so. I mean, research helps with pretty much everything that you do. With starting a strategy, with analysing how it went. Like it's all it all factors in. And gives you that knowledge, and the knowledge makes you confident, I think, as well, when you know a bit more about it. Like whether you're dealing with a new client, even when you're presenting or something like that, just doing that research beforehand, it's a surefire way to feel more confident.
I think the other two is how to better manage my time. As uni went on, I watched my schedule change, and it started off with just blindly going to my classes that I remembered, just from checking at the start of the semester to writing down where I had to be at certain times, to building a calendar, to then time blocking every single hour that I have. So instead of just blindly waking up and doing something, I have a schedule that's done every Sunday to make sure that I'm in the right place at the right time and I'm getting as much as I can done as possible, so that I can advance in my career and also do everything else that I want to do outside of work.
Yeah, I mean, being organised, it's actually liberating, I think, because there's nothing worse than not being somewhere where you're supposed to be and then realising it because you haven't written it down. So.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have the mindset that having a schedule might be like a trap, but it's actually not. It's having more freedom.
I'm with you. And so what has been something related to social media that you've learned in the last 2 weeks that you could share with us? It could be a tool, a hack, a bit of information, an update to one of the platforms. What's something you could share?
With social media, I definitely learn something new every day, but the newest skill is probably just learning how to coordinate with people and and actually how to reply to messages, funnily enough. So you get some pretty interesting questions, and sometimes you'll get questions that aren't even related to the business. And you have to figure out how to resolve those issues that you might not even have control over in a strategic way. I'm still learning about it, so it's hard to talk about, but yeah, probably something like that would be pretty.
Do you have any tips about how you've been navigating that so far?
I would say always maintain a relationship. Don't let your personal feelings get in the way, and don't be afraid to ask your team as well. Like if you're in a good office, which I think that I am, you don't feel it's easy to just ask your colleagues, and usually you can come to a conclusion together, and I think that's really a really valuable asset to have.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what advice could you give to other social media students or even emerging social media professionals about how to succeed in their career?
Right. I would say build relationships, because it's essential, especially if you're planning to get a job on the Sunshine Coast. If maybe in like a larger city, it would be a little bit easier, but on the Sunshine Coast, it's all about who you know. And if you can build up that network, it just makes your life so much easier. Something that I personally did, as if there's an introvert listening to this, is instead of attending networking events, which is a good idea, by the way, you should do it. But if it's not for you, start a sport or a hobby. So for me, I did jiu-jitsu, and you don't actually realize how many intelligent people are all around you. So if you just ask questions, ask people what they do, ask them what they're passionate about or something like that, and just bring it up casually in conversation, a lot of the times you can find really good opportunities by doing that. So I, for example, worked for two people that I met at jiu-jitsu, and they just had local businesses and they needed help. And I also got some work from someone who owned their own agency, who contracted me out to do stuff whilst I was at uni. And that was all based on just going to something that I already enjoyed and finding leads that way as well. So,
that's excellent advice.
Yeah. And then also just don't just learn what you learn at university. I'm not saying that it's not useful. It's definitely very useful. But learn outside of that and always be learning. Like learn strategy, learn from people that have been in the business for 30 or 40 years. Like a good example is Seth Godin. He's got a lot of knowledge in marketing, and it's really valuable to see that sort of insight from someone who's lived in the industry.
Excellent advice. Yeah, and the things, don't worry, you didn't offend me. Seriously, I wish I could put everything I wanted to into the courses, but I can't. so yes, please learn outside, because I can't fit any more in there. So, I'm hoping maybe one day we'll have post-grad. I don't know, but we'll see. But yeah. And so the most important question of this whole chat and the name of the show is who do you like, share and follow, apart from Seth Godin? Because clearly that's a favorite.
Yep, sure. So I've got quite a lot. Would you prefer if I just chucked out 2 or 3, or would you really?
Yeah, well, why don't you throw out 2 or 3, and then when we can look at this on Facebook and LinkedIn, maybe tag their pages or something in the comments.
Cool. So I'm just going to go. I would say that I'm going to start off with Gary Vaynerchuk. He owns, just for some context, he owns a large agency and other multiple businesses in New York City. And he's basically this genius salesperson / marketer who's really given me a lot of valuable advice over the last 3 years. He's very practical. He's very in your face, and he just gives really, really good advice for mindset and business as well. Because I think, just a quick plug in there, is like with business, if you want to be good at it, it's got nothing to do with your technical skills. It's good to have that, but a lot of people have that. It's actually about your mindset and how you approach what you're doing. If you can be optimistic in a situation rather than negative, you're more likely to find a solution. And then I would say the future. He's a guy that has really helped me with a lot of negotiation stuff. And also, if you're interested in starting your own business later down the line, he sort of gives you a step-by-step guide on how to make that happen. And then probably the last one I would say is Tim Ferriss. Tim Ferriss has been really good at all sorts of business stuff, but also just about how to use your time efficiently. So instead of thinking that you have to always be busy, don't focus on always being busy. Try to focus on being as productive as possible. Yeah.
Excellent. So that would be great. If you can tag those, then people watching can then go and check them out too.
Yeah, cool.
So do you have any final words that you would like to say to people watching?
It depends where you are in your journey at USC or any university if you're watching from a different university. Sometimes it can feel like it's a never-ending race, and it might feel like you're chasing something that's not even there. For me, it was anyway. Like I spent 3 years studying, working really, really hard, trying to make something happen for myself. And it can be discouraging at times. It kind of feels like you might not ever get an outcome, but just wait and be patient and trust what you're doing, and good things will come.
That's excellent. Thank you so much, Luke. And next week on the show, we have Karen Eriksson, who's a business and innovation strategist at Future Media Group in Sweden. So because of the time difference, I'm not going to make her be on here at this time. So we're going to do our session at about 5 o'clock, which is in the morning. It's about 8 a.m., 9 a.m. for her. So great. So thank you so much, Luke. You shared a lot of excellent knowledge. And it's actually because we were so online this year, I never really got to get to know you very well. So it's been really great to have the time just to have a chat and learn more about you. So congratulations. You've done so well. And good luck with Tourism Noosa.
Thank you. And thank you for being such a great teacher.
Look, don't blush. Thank you. See you next week, everyone. Bye.
Bye.